All yours, Keith.
Am I share? Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, good. I can't see it on my iPad, but I can see it on my screen. Fine. Okay. Well, thank you very much. When we first discussed this talk, I thought it would take me about 10 or 15 minutes. And Peter, maybe tongue-in-cheek, said, no, make it last longer. So, Peter, you should be careful of what you wish for, because I'm going to indulge myself now. With that license, I'm going to talk about what I call my photographic journey, how I came to join the Royal Photographic Society, how I was daft enough to end up taking this distinction assessment. And along the way, I'll tell you a bit about the Royal Photographic Society and the benefits, the costs of becoming a member. I'll touch on the pros and cons of taking an LRPS and what I think I got out of it. I'll talk about the actual process, what I went through, what it involved, what help I got. I'll show you my panel of pictures, and I'll show you a few other successful ones, some considerably better than mine, I think. I think I'll also include some images from higher distinction levels of the RPS. So you get to see some of the real cream. So we'll see a few good photos by the end of this, I hope. And then finally, although I've got no direct experience, I'll touch on the awards that are available through our own federation. And I know that Peter's going to elaborate on that and provide further details if I get something wrong. So to begin with me, I've enjoyed photography from an early age, not quite as young as the photos at the top there, but certainly since I was in short trousers. And I've owned versions of these cameras at different times, the Instamatic, the Praktica, and my pride and joy, what I thought was the height of sophistication at the time, a 35mm Olympus OM10. But for most of my adult life, I was very busy with my day job, very busy with my family life, and I couldn't be more than a frustrated holiday snapper. I didn't have time to go to camera clubs like this. I didn't have the luxury, the pleasure of going out and just taking pictures for the sake of taking pictures. And the digital era just completely passed me by. But when I retired in 2018 and I joined this camera club, I was determined to improve my knowledge and skills. And one of the things I did fairly early on was to ask advice from Malcolm Leach, who, as everyone knows, was a very experienced senior photographer, an undoubted expert. And I asked Malcolm whether it would be worth me enrolling on an online distance learning course with the Open University. And it happens that Malcolm said that he'd done it himself and he'd enjoyed it, and he encouraged me to enroll. And so I did. Now, as it happened, that course didn't teach me a whole lot that was new in terms of photography principles. Even from an early age, I knew about the exposure triangle, I knew about f-stop, shutter speeds, apertures, that sort of thing. I was, I think, strong on the theory, weak on the practice, and entirely ignorant of the digital medium. But what the course did provide was a really stimulating environment, the chance to interact with some very knowledgeable people with more experience than me, a chance to engage wholeheartedly in the subject, really to immerse myself, to see an awful lot of high quality images from other people, to join forums where ideas were swapped. And I learned more really from the senior tutors moderating the forums than in the formal teaching sessions. So that course came to an end, and I really wanted more of the same. What I hadn't realised was that this Open University course is run by the Royal on behalf of the Royal Photographic Society, the RPS. At the time, I didn't even know what the letters RPS stood for, and I certainly didn't know anything about RPS distinctions, apart from a little bit of chatter in the forums. But those who complete the Open University RPS course are given the chance to become members of the society at a discounted rate in their first year, so at student rates. And it was pretty cheap, and I'd enjoyed my interaction with other people, and I took it up. I thought, well, why not? Now, of course, I know an awful lot more about the RPS these days. It really is the leading charity for photography in the UK, but also has an international reputation, has over 11,000 members. It has honorary fellows from all corners of the globe. The literati of photography, really, and its public or its charitable aims are appreciation of photography, the upholding of standards, the promoting of and development of photographers. What I discovered early on was that it has a regional structure, and as a member, I was automatically became a member of the Southern group with the chance to go out and to photograph with other local people, attend local workshops, and get to meet keen photographers in my area. The RPS also hosts special interest groups, where people of particular expertise gravitate to. And I would highlight particularly groups for digital imaging, landscape, travel, visual arts that attract real experts in the subject and have contact networks with sort of real world experts in their field. Pre-COVID, a lot of the information was exchanged in face-to-face workshops. It wasn't so easy to get to those. But of course, now everything is online, and events that used to attract 20 people get 400 or more who come from all over the world. And it's even possible that speakers are engaged from the international forum. And it's been one of the few pleasures of COVID that I've been able to pass my time attending virtual Zoom events a couple of times a week. Many of these are free to members and non-members alike, or where there are paid events. These are a few interesting ones I have in my diary. The costs are really fairly nominal, so I paid between, I think, about £2 and £6 to book for these events. As well as talks, workshops, symposia, the RPS also has photographic bursaries. So we get presentations from people who've done distinct photographic projects. It hosts an international exhibition. And of course, it promotes its distinction processes. As I say, something I really not contemplated. The idea wasn't on my priority list. But eventually, the idea was planted in my mind, and it took root really at a particular pre-COVID photography shoot of the local group in Hampshire, where I made a new friend, and he just taken his LRPS, and as it happened, he acted as a mentor and an advisor for me. And gradually, bit by bit, I got round to the idea that it would probably be good for me to have an aim to improve my photography, a sort of target, a benchmark, something to spur me on to get better, something to challenge myself with. So I did some digging around, and the requirements for the licentiateship are well spelt out online. You can see interviews with people who've taken the assessment. There are lots of online recommended resources, even the chance of a one-to-one personal advice. Essentially, to take this assessment, you have to submit a portfolio of work, and this can be 10 mounted prints, 10 digital images, or more rarely, people produce a photo book. Most people work towards mounted prints, and I did. In fact, although I was digitally ignorant at the time, I bought myself my first digital printer, and I learned printing skills from scratch, quite largely to enter this assessment. Of course, I wanted to take part in club competitions too, but this was quite a spur. These are the criteria for the LRPS, and they're not massively different. Sorry, is this in your way? No, it's just on my screen. Okay, don't worry. These are the criteria for the LRPS assessment, and they're not massively different in the first 3 columns from what the judges look for. So that the camera work, the technical quality, that has to be there. You can't have technical flaws in any of your 10 pictures. You need to show visual awareness, understanding of how you use light, how to make good compositions. You need to demonstrate imagination, creativity, empathy, communication, those soft things you were talking about. Or as Terry put it quite nicely the other week, the picture has to be worth looking at. People have to dwell on it. It has to have some enduring interest. What is a bit different is the last column. So a person taking the LRPS is assessed not just for each individual photo, but also for the group of pictures, the panel as a whole. So it says there you need a balanced and cohesive set of images. The images need to work together. The selection, editing, presentation must show evidence that thought's being given to the layout or sequencing of the submission. That might sound a bit wishy-washy, but actually when you come to look at some of the panels, and I'll show you some in a little while, it's very clear what this means. People don't just submit their 10 best photographs. They think very carefully about what photographs will go with what, in terms of tonal balance, in terms of composition, in terms of layout. And this is often described as the 11th image, which is what the 10 photos would look like if you put them in a display on a wall as if it was in an exhibition. And of course, that's an extra skill and an extra challenge, and it's a reason why it takes time for people to build submission. They might have, say, 8 photos they think look good and go together quite well, and then they spend ages hunting for another 2 that fit, and they end up taking pictures for purpose to plug the gap. And by the time you've done that, you've learned something else. If you go in for a print submission, then there are various prescribed layouts given by the RPS. A popular one is the one shown at the bottom. It's simply 2 rows of 5 prints. But as with football teams, you can have other formations. You can have a 2-3-5 formation, a 3-3-4, or a 3-4-3. I went for a 3-3-4 formation in mine, as you'll see. Now, as I mentioned, there's lots of advice out there. In fact, without COVID, there would be 2 principal events called advisory days, and then the exam day itself, the assessment day. And as a member of RPS, I can go to any number of those events as a spectator, as a fly on the wall. And also as a benefit of membership, I get one free go, people get one free go of taking along a draft panel, the panel they're thinking of submitting, plus a few substitutes. And they get them critiqued by a senior RPS assessor. This is a very typical setup. The panels get hung, they get inspected, they get critiqued before an audience of people who I think all have a vested interest in the process. I attended 2 events like this in Hampshire, one assessment day just as an observer, and then I took along my panel to an advisory day. And I found the comments are fair, but they sometimes appear harsh. I think that's because if a person's work is not up to the mark, the RPS advisors really want to discourage them from entering until they're at that stage in their photographic journey. And so on my own advisory day, the chief examiner tore into several of the panels before mine, and you can imagine that I approached it with a lot of trepidation when I put my 10 prints up. As it happens, they went down pretty well, and I actually had some really helpful advice. One piece of advice would help me to improve the layout of my panel, but other pieces of advice helped me to find shadow and highlight detail in images when I didn't even know they were there. So again, I learned something more from it. And I came away pretty buoyed up by the process, but I know 1 or 2 people were feeling a bit deflated. Then comes the assessment day, the exam itself, and of course that's all online now. But with COVID, without COVID, it would be like an advisory day, except that you'd have 5 assessors, 5 judges in the front row, plus the chief assessor as the host. And each of your pictures would be looked at very, very closely indeed by all the examiners. And then, a bit like the Olympic Games, they hold up cards to say whether you've passed or failed. Those cards can only really be seen by the chief examiner, who then invites a couple of the assessors to talk about the panel. I guess people who think it should pass and people who don't think it should pass. And then the judges all vote again, and the chief examiner delivers the verdict and any necessary points of critique. So the possible outcomes at that stage are a straight pass, a straight fail, or an encouragement to resubmit. And there are degrees of partial fail, where if you fail one picture, you might have to substitute a different one. Or if you have technical problems in 1 or 2 pictures, you might have to correct them with or without a resubmission fee. As I say, it's a selected group, so people are discouraged from taking part if they're not ready. There's a lot of advice and mentorship. The pass rate overall then comes out at about 50%. And it's fairly common for people to have to resubmit 1 or 2 pictures to improve the portfolio. Of course, there are people who, like in the driving test, fail again and again. I'm focusing here on the LRPS, the licentiateship, but there are higher rungs on the RPS ladder. There's the associateship, the ARPS, and if you're in the stratosphere, the fellowship, the FRPS. Now, as you'll see, as I show some panels in the LRPS, there isn't a prescribed content. In fact, it's the opposite. You're encouraged to show a variety of skills and techniques to show that you're not a one-trick pony, really. But when it comes to the higher levels of award, you have to submit it under a special theme like landscape or fine art, documentary, something like that, with a statement of intent, and the panel of photos has to reflect the intent. So that's enough of this chit chat. I'm going to show you some photos now, and I'll show some examples at each of the levels. And we'll start with, now you haven't got it yet. It's on my screen, Peter. Can you see
No, we can't.
A panel by Jenny Rees-Mann?
No, we've still got the
Rees-Mann.
We've still got your PowerPoint.
Perhaps I have to change the sharing, do I?
Yeah, share it on the other one.
Okay, let me do that. Right. Okay. I've
got that.
Okay. So here's the panels I'm going to show you now just come from one camera club, the Worcester Camera Club, and so this is the LRPS panel of Jenny Rees-Mann, and I think you can see now what I mean by the 11th image, this hanging plan. So there's a tremendous symmetry in this. If you just think about, first of all, the way the images are cropped, then 1, 3, and 5 are cropped the same. 6 and 10 are an obvious pair, as are 2 and 4, and 7, 8, and 9 are a pair. Then it's a convention in this that if you have a photo that looks like it's sided, like right-sided or left-sided, you arrange it so it looks into the panel to encourage people to explore the other pictures. So it's no coincidence that the lady in number 1 is walking from left to right, or that the man in 5 is looking into the panel, or that the two pieces of nature at 6 and 10, which look very, very similar in tone and design, that they're each looking into the panel. You can see how some of the colors and tones in 1 are similar to the tones in 5, how 3 and 8 are the two monochromes. You can perhaps see with the eye of faith why 8 and 3 were picked as central images and why 3 is at the top. So 8 in its helter-skelter, and it kind of draws your eye, if anything, up to this dominant Kelpie figure. So that's a very typical hanging plan, and this one too. So 2 rows of 5. The bottom row are all black and whites. The top row are all color. These 2 strong central images. You've got the 2 landscapes on at the top rows that are, in fact, draw your eye, if anything, into the picture. And you've got these lovely pictures here of the seagulls and the soldiers also looking into the picture and looking remarkably similar, really, except one is seagulls and one is soldiers, using depth of field and the same tricks and conventions. And then you have these 2 lovely pictures, the one of the workshop and the one of the escalator, showing similar converging lines. So that's Colin Nash and his panel. And I won't describe them all in detail. I'll just let you see some of them. But clearly you have a pair of black and whites on the outside here. You have at the bottom, you have these circles of color and really quite a lot of imagination. As I say, there isn't a prescribed format, and I didn't think I was good enough in my skills to do macro, to do nature photography, but some people have high skill levels and they produce lovely panels of their kind. I'd pick on this one, which might resonate with members of the camera club because people have taken pictures a bit like some of these. And A word about standards at this point. Clearly, there are some very high standards here, and some are extraordinarily high, maybe ready for the next level. But I resonate. I agree with Peter that if I can pass it, other people could pass it too in our camera club. And there are pictures that we see in PDI competitions every week that certainly would make the grade. So it's a high standard, but it's not an impossible one. Although sometimes when you look at the best LRPS panels, you do think it's impossible. So I admire the creativity, the imagination of people who can put a set of pictures like these together. This one perhaps I might be able to do. That's much more to do with muted tones, but it's lovely in its own way. And this panel I absolutely adore. I love these two pastel-y pictures up here. I love this portrait on the top left, and I think it's really a rather lovely panel. And this one just makes me incredibly jealous. So here's someone who's managed to get two photographs of the Northern Lights, perhaps a picture of, I don't know, of the Himalayas. He's got the skill to take good firework photograph. He's got the imagination to take pictures looking out of a washing machine and looking out of a toilet. And the chance to go and photograph these, I don't know, Tibetan monks. So he's a lucky man, but also a very skillful one. And some people have very artistic visions, really. So I think this is a panel that's just constructed around muted colors, muted browns, muted grays. Artistic skills I just don't have. And this is my favorite panel, I think, of the lot. I love this sense of movement in the running shoes, the blurring of the bird's wings, the sense of movement in the dance, and these lovely reflections. So some standards are very high. I think I can click on this one and we can see some, get a better sense of the print quality, perhaps. And the sharpness and clarity of the images. It's sickening in some ways, Peter. I don't know. I feel a fraud when I see some of these. I think I could take this one. And I can't quite work that one out. Okay, so you've seen what Worcester Camera Club can do. Let's see what Practical Camera Club of North Baddesley can do. I'm almost ashamed to show my panel now. I got to change the sharing again, have I?
Okay.
Yeah, just a moment. Okay, so I'm afraid that's my pitiful hanging plan. Because I didn't think myself good enough at macro and close-up photography and not good enough at taking animals and birds, I went for a different theme. I do like black and white. I do like architecture. I do like patterns in pictures. So my top row are pattern pictures with indoor architecture. My bottom row are all black and whites. And in terms of the hanging plan, I've got a man walking into 7, I've got a woman walking into 3, I've got 2 and 5 as central images, and I've paired the arch of this bridge in London so that the arch takes you into the picture with the rifle of the soldiers going the other direction. And I like to think that the shape in 10 draws your eye into the panel, as does the cloud formation in 8. So that's kind of the best I can do. Now, So my screen looks a bit of a mess here. So do I need to share a different one again?
Well, we've still got your panel up. So.
Yes, but I haven't.
Oh.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right.
Okay. You've got what I've got now.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So I just take you through them one by one. You've seen half.
Winchester.
Yeah, you've seen half of these in the Camera Club, and they did pretty well in club competitions, and one or two did well in the league. But so that's Winchester. That's the British Museum. I've seen better pictures than that, than mine displayed at Camera Club, but I'm quite pleased with this because it was a vertically stitched panorama, and I had a lot of difficulty getting all these lines to join up. But I managed it in the end. It's not an easy picture to take, actually, because of the space and the and so on. This is Somerset House, and that's just luck that lady with the nice coat walked into my picture just when I wanted her to. This one you've seen, and I suppose I'm pleased that I got this angle here, the sort of right angle and the sweep. So I spent a lot of time trying to design that picture, and pleased with the result. And this one did pretty well. And I seem to remember in the first Malcolm Leach competition we had. You've seen this one at Camera Club. I had difficulty with the skin tones, and this was criticised at my advisory day. And I spent a long time trying to learn how to improve skin tones in photographs. So again, I had another learning experience. I don't think you've seen this one before. No. It's rather curious, and I don't quite know why I like it, but I do. It's a very strange structure, and you have it's very odd having a man and a dog walking along a red carpet on a quayside in Seville. And it's sort of I don't know, my poor attempt at Cartier-Bresson, really.
It's the position of the man. He's right under the end, which is what draws the eye, I think.
Yeah. Again, I was lucky, I think, but and then a classical picture of Manhattan skyline, a picture of, this is Browden House, but again, I was lucky or able to see this nice reflection pattern, which makes the picture more interesting.
Repeat, where is it?
I think it's Browden House it might be in Northamptonshire.
Right.
Yeah. And then this one, of course, people know the Mushrooms of Seville. It did rather well in the league competition in before we had COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. So that's my panel.
Excellent.
I'm sorry it's not as good as the others, but
fine.
So we'll go back to I'll just go back to the presentation briefly.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. I've got one more thing I wanted to show you before then. I wanted to show, so let's have another go. I wanted to show you the higher level, the next notch up.
Oh, right, okay.
So if I got time. So this,
carry on.
So this is the ARPS, and this is in the landscape category. Now you've got to have a statement of intent. So this photographer, Peter Benson, he wrote about how grimy and noisy and awful cities are by day, and how beautiful and tranquil and magical and fairy-like they are at night. And he took a series of pictures to try and capture that. And I'll just let you marvel at the pictures he took. While I show these, I'll just say that about 230 people take the ARPS each year, and about half of them are successful. So there are at least 120 people out there producing, fantastic images like this. Very different from my Manhattan picture. I think I prefer his. Okay, so that's ARPS, and now we go to FRPS. So this is the top level, and this is also landscape, and it's depicting the play of light on the mountains and the valleys and waters of the Lake District. And I think as you look at these, you'll realize that the FRPS standards are really at the high professional end. They really are absolutely fantastic. I would die just to be able to take one picture, anything like these. Oh, I'd love to be there.
I was going to say that.
Oh,
That's nice.
I would love to be there. But you'll never see me up a mountain, I don't think.
That's nice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that one, that's superb.
Yeah.
Superb. Well, I think you're getting the idea. Yeah. I think he's showing off at this point, isn't he? we know he can do it. Right. Okay. So that's the FRPS standard. Okay. So I'll go back to my talk and just wrap up. So, yeah, so inspiring, aren't they? And it was inspiration was one of the reasons I decided to take the qualification. I wanted to try and to take pictures somewhere near as good as the photos I was seeing. Of course, I'm afraid I've still got a long way to go, but people climb mountains for the challenge, don't they? And do they get better at mountaineering? Well, of course they do. They have to. And I think it's the same with photography. I do think that by setting myself a challenge, interacting with people far better than myself in photography, I've managed to up my game. And if I look honestly at the pictures I was taking 3 years ago when I first joined the camera club and the ones I take now, I think they're light years apart. I had no idea before. I've got a bit of an idea now. And I put that really down to the discipline of going out regularly, always trying to make your next picture better than your last picture, always trying to learn new skills that might be useful, all with an aim of having a standard. So for me, those were the pros of going through this. The cons, well, obviously a challenging target means a lot of time and a lot of hard work, and people may not have the time. They may not want to put in hard work for something that's meant to be fun, that's a hobby. And then there are the costs. So it's £75 for a member to take this exam, £107 if you're a non-member. You don't need to be a member to take an RPS exam, but there's a sting in the tail. You need to be an RPS member if you want to use the letters. So if you pass, you need to pay £120 membership fee to become an RPS member. Of course, half the people taking the exam want to be professional photographers, and for them it's just a cost of business. They want to use the letters, but for amateurs like us in a club like ours, costs obviously come into it. unless you're like me and you want to be an RPS member anyway. I'll just finish with this slide, and Peter will, I'll overlap a bit with perhaps with what Peter's going to say. So there are parallels between the RPS and the Photographic Alliance of Great Britain. So I mentioned RPS has got regions and groups. PAGBA has got its regional federations, which our club belongs to. And PAGBA runs its own award system. Again, there are 3 steps, 3 rungs on the ladder: the certificate, the diploma, and the mastership. And they're meant to parallel, in some ways, the standards of the RPS. They're not exactly the same. So as I understand it, for CPAG, again, it's a panel of 10 photographs, but they're projected ones, and they're mixed up in a random order, just like in between league competitions. And so there isn't an 11th image, there isn't a hanging plan as such, there isn't a panel, and the challenge isn't quite as great, but there are those sets of awards. They carry an exam fee, but you don't have to pay a continuing membership fee. For RPS, there are no entry criteria. You could enter straight for ARPS if you thought you were good enough. But if you want to use, with the qualification, if you want to use the letters, you've got to be a member. But for the PAGBA system, there are entry criteria, and Peter will know these better than me, but I think it's something like you've got to be a member of a federated club like ours for a certain minimum length of time, and that time gets greater as you go up the ladder, and you have to take these awards in order, and there may even be a specified minimum interval between them. So it's something like that.
Yeah,
so
I've got that.
I'll stop at that point.
Okay,
and,
lovely.
I'll stop sharing, and I'll hand over to Peter, who can put you right on this last bit. So
I'll have a go. Lovely, Keith. That's great. Thank you very much. I've muted everybody, just so there's no background noise when Keith was presenting. But just
I was going to say,
we're
going to take any questions.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. I'll give it a go.
I was interested. Do you think it's actually worth your 120 quid, or it's more like about 90 something quid if you're an old fogey, isn't it? But
yeah. I think it's moot. Some things about the membership of the RPS are good, and other things are less good. It has a journal, but it's not like a camera magazine. It's not a how-to. It's much more of a sort of aspirational magazine showing you the shakers and movers. It has newsletters. They're quite interesting. I haven't really had a chance to use the regional structure as much as I would like, you see. So it's a bit hard to really say what the value of that is. Certainly, I went to 1 or 2 meetings. They were free. I went and shot with other people. I went to a local workshop on printing that was dirt cheap. If you're into paying for expert workshops, they are not dirt cheap. They're £35 to £100, say, for a sort of proper workshop. But then you get 2 days of studio portraiture, or fine art printing, or you get to have a day out with a leading landscape photographer, or so you pay more. And if you're an RPS member, you get a substantial discount. So whether you get value out of that £120 depends a bit on these other things, I think. I've been happy to do it because I knew I wanted to take the exam, and I knew that So does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. And the only other comment I had, I've looked at LRPS, and I've always wondered about what you just called the 11th image and the hanging plan. And I thought, particularly for LRPS, if you're supposed to be demonstrating skill in different areas, if you've got macro or street photography or portraits or landscape, how do you how do you combine those into a hanging plan? But I think you gave me some insight into what you were talking about, really. You know, the 11th image, you get some clues about what the requirement is for this hanging plan. Although it kind of doesn't really exist for the projected ones, does it? But
no, it doesn't. No. So if you, although I think if you entered 10 projected images, they're projected in sequence, and then people give some thought as to what image follows what, because if you get one screen that looks completely different visually from the next screen, it could jar, couldn't it? Or it could be harmonious. So, but I don't know. I mean, I've got no experience of that.
Okay, it was just something that puzzled me, really, the importance of the hanging plan. Anyhow, that was all I had.
Okay, lovely. Right. Well, carrying on from Keith's, then let me.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you, Keith.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Keith. Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Firing stuff.
Oh, another question before we get back to football. Out of curiosity, what was the Open University course that you did then?
Yes, that's a distance learning course. It cost 150 or 200 pounds, I think. It lasted about 3 months. It had quite a number of taught modules, forums. At the end of it, you took a sort of assessment that was like a sort of mini LRPS assessment, really, with 10 images that were projected in a sequence. Quite a lot of it was at a fairly basic level in terms of taught material, and I think there are people in the camera club that would be well above that, really. As I say,
sorry, I was going to say there's a new one this year. That was TG 089, isn't it, Keith?
Yeah.
The last one, the one you did, yeah. I think there's a TMZ something 200, which is 450 quid, which is like a follow-on, more advanced version.
Right. Well, there was always a wish among people had the same feeling as me. They came to the end of it and they said, "What next?" And but as I say, the value for it for me was in the networking, and a lot more information is exchanged in the margins than was taught me in the taught material. But I thought it was worthwhile, but others might not.
Yeah.
Well, there's a new one this year, TMZ something 200, which is a more advanced one. It's first time this year, and you can find it linked on the RPS somewhere. I think it begins in March.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain, but I think when I last looked, the course TG 089 has been discontinued. But I think you'd have to look on the Open University website to confirm.
Yeah, that's what I was actually looking on that, and I was curious to know which one was actually taken. There's two there now. One is digital photography, which is open, and it says basically aimed at people who are starting their serious amateur photography career, if you like.
Yeah.
And then there's a new one which has just been mentioned, which is the digital photography micro credentials course, which is aimed to get people up to producing a professional portfolio, which costs £450.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think they're both 10. They reckon both of them are about 100 hours or something, 10 weeks and 10 hours a week.
100 hours. The second one is more structured because, as you said, it's got online training courses, presentations or whatever, and they're quoting that one at 10 hours a week for 10 weeks.
Actually, Keith, I did have another question on these courses, because the Open University has, I've forgotten what they call it now, but some online forum thing. I can't remember, some photo sharing forum or something.
Well, at the end,
how did you?
Certainly at the end of a course, first of all, you could share an awful lot of images, so there was a sort of I don't know, an online website where people would upload and share images like a Flickr. And I must have seen tens of thousands of pictures during the course from people taking their delegates to the course. On top of that, well, no, you have access then to that for a long time afterwards. But beyond that, I don't know.
But that is an open university website, isn't it? That is an open university website.
Yes.
I've forgotten what it's got a name, hasn't it? I can't remember what I remember reading about it, but I can't remember what it's called. But you can't see it until you remember. So I was wondering what that was like. But it was kind of like a forum, a bulletin board, and you can share photos. Is that what it was like?
Yeah. And there were lots of threads were exchanged in the course as well.
Okay.
If you see just on the RPS website, and say you see there's a course on here, for example, and it says what to shoot when there's nothing to shoot. That's quite good. It's quite topical at the moment. It's quite a good course by the look of things.
That's the one I want.
22nd of February, and it says, it just says region Southern. Doesn't give any prices for someone who's a non-member. I guess you've got to be a member, right?
Well, not necessarily. Most things, most of the offerings have been free, but not all of them. There are some behind closed doors. There are some that have differential rates. If you have to pay something, then you pay a bit more if you're not a member. But I mean, if people are interested in Royal Photographic Society, they don't have to pay a membership fee. They can just go on the site and have a look, and they'll find there's quite a lot of free stuff.
A lot of good YouTube ones.
It varies. It varies. Some of it is just people sounding off, and it's not that interesting. But some of it's really, really good. Yeah,
there's good content on YouTube, isn't there? That's obviously free as well.
Yes.
And they record interviews and presentations. So that seems to be good value.
Okay, all good. Now, can you see that on the screen?
Yep.
Yeah. A guide to photographic accreditation. So just carrying on from what Keith was saying, give you an idea where we are. So we're the Practical Camera Club, and we're members of the SCPF, which has got 71 clubs covering Hampshire, Berkshire, East Dorset, East Wilts, Channel Islands, and Isle of Wight. And the SCPF.
And Gibraltar.
And Gibraltar, yes.
Yeah.
We go into the away match. And we're not allowed. And then, as Keith touched on, the PAGB, we are members of that through our association with the SCPF. And the PAGB covers Great Britain, and that's got 15 regions, one of which is our SCPF. And then the PAGB is associated with FIAP, which is the International Photographic Association, and that covers photographic associations in 85 different countries. So FIAP have got their accreditations, which I'll cover after the PAGB. So your PAGB, you've got different levels of awards. So what they call the awards for photographic merit, APM, are open only to members of clubs that are affiliated to the PAGB through the federations. So you can only apply for one of those accreditations, CAPAGB, DPAGB, MPAGB, if you're a member of a club which is affiliated, which obviously we are. And so you've got your CPAGB, which is your lowest level, which is good standard, is good club photography. And then you've got the distinction, which is standard, is open exhibition photography. And then you've got your masters, which is your highest standard of UK amateur photography. As it says at the bottom, the awards are held for life without any annual fee, and holders are entitled to use the designated letters after their name. So the CPAGB, to qualify for this, the support, you need to have been a member of a club for a minimum of 2 years before you can enter. 3 years for DPAGB and 5 for MPAGB. Applicants must first of all apply through their federation. So if you wanted to go for one of these, like, you'd obviously have to start with the CPAGB. You'd have to apply through the SCPF, and the SCPF in a normal year, when we haven't got COVID, usually do 2 open days a year, where, like similar to what Keith was saying, you can take your pictures along to have them assessed, and they will give you guidance as to what you need to do to hit the standard, or you may have already hit the standard, but they can advise you. So your CPAGB is good club photography, and the entry fee for that is 60 quid, and you need to enter either 10 prints or 10 PDIs, and you need to score 200 plus to gain the award. So there are 6 judges, and the adjudicators look at each photo. Not up to standard, they'll give it 2 points. Acceptable, they'll give it 4. And if they think it's above the standard of that level and would be accepted in the next level, they can give it 5 points. So from your 10 entries, you've got 6 judges, and you need to accrue 200 points to hit the accreditation. DPAGB, it's very similar, but obviously the standard is higher. Entry fee's 90 quid. Resubmission is 80. And in this instance, you need 15 prints or 15 PDIs. Obviously, at the moment with COVID, they're only accepting PDIs anyway. And it's similar scoring. 2 points if they don't think it's up to the standard is given to us a picture. 4 points is given by the judge if he accepts it, and 5 if he thinks it's above the standard. And in this instance, you've got 6 judges again, but you need to get 300 plus points from your 15 entries. And then your Masters MPAGB, slightly higher fee of 120. And in this instance, it's 20 prints or 20 PDIs. Same scoring, and in this instance, you need to get 450 or more to gain the award. And then FIAP, you've got the lowest entry, which is a FIAP, which is the first artistic distinction that can be awarded. This awarded to artists whose artistic qualities, technique and production of work have been acknowledged through the participation in international saloons under FIAP patronage. Now that is your, which I'll touch on in a minute and show you some examples. That is exhibitions like Southampton International Exhibition that they've held every year. Up to this year, it didn't get held this year because of COVID, but that's the one that's on display down in Southampton. Where is it, Gary?
Down at West Quay.
Oh, West Quay. Yeah, sorry, thank you. Yeah, that's the one that's on display in West Quay, and they hold the judging in Cadnam, which we've been along to. Some Jackie and Gary and a few others have been along and watched them doing the judging down there, and Colin has helped out as well, Colin Leach. And FIAP is obviously the international federation, and so to get an AFIAP distinction, you need to enter exhibition saloon exhibitions that are held in various countries around the world. So this again, you need to have been a member of a club for a minimum of a year. You need to take part with success in at least 15 international saloons that are run under the FIAP patronage in at least 8 different countries. And you need to obtain 40 acceptances. 10% of those acceptances must be in prints. So you can't just do PDIs. As you can see, that's quite a few competitions that you've got to enter. So you've got your different levels in FIAP, and that's a lot harder to achieve, and it's a lot costlier. And like I say, one of the ways you can enter that is one of the ways you get the acceptance is by entering the different exhibitions. And like I say, Southampton International Exhibition is one of those. So this international exhibition is held every year, and it's got various categories. And if you get an acceptance when you've entered a picture in this exhibition, the accreditations are accepted by FIAP and also the GPU, and the PSA, which are other associations in America. We'll touch on those at the end. But with FIAP, you need to enter these different exhibitions throughout the different competitions in the world. And the scoring system is as follows. So you got 3 judges who each have a scoring pad with 4 buttons on, which have a scoring range of 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the print or the PDI is displayed, and then the judge gives it a score. So in real time, they spend about 3 seconds making their mind up with the score they're going to give your pictures. So we can have a look at this in real time. And this is pretty much the speed at which they work. So the picture goes up. That's your score. Next picture. And that is the speed, as you've all seen that when you've come along and seen them judging, that's the speed at which they judge the pictures, which is why it shows why you need to have a photo that stands out. I know everybody, you know, it's a standing joke about, oh, don't enter sunsets. We've all seen them before. But when you're entering these exhibitions, you need them to have something that does stand out from the crowd to make it that little bit special.
But only if you care about it.
Hey?
Only if you care about it, because I don't value my pictures from a 3-second.
No, but I know what you're saying. I mean, sometimes, Terry, they do stop and take a little bit longer. But
I absolutely hated the last Southampton International Exhibition. It was going to be showed. I mean, it's before I joined this club. It was going to be an evening looking at their photos at Havant. I went online and looked, and fully 1/3 of the photos that were commended were either people that looked at least 80 years old or couldn't afford shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be the criteria for getting a commended photo in the Southampton exhibition. Was you've got to look like you're about to keel over and die, or you've got to be poor enough not to be able to afford shoes. It really wound me up. But you know, that was the sort of photo that I don't particularly like looking at. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just my opinion. I'll shut up again.
Okay, no problem. Anyway, the guidelines from different patronages stipulate that the exception rate should be in the range of 20 to 25% of the total entries. So therefore, when they're judging a particular category, they when it's finished, the range of scores are assessed, and then they set the acceptance grade level. So to give you a bit of an idea from the 2019 exhibition, in the open digital category for PDIs, 486 photographers entered 1,926 photos. And 460 of those photos were accepted, which is an acceptance level of 24%. And like color prints, you had 214 photographers entered, and there was 836. They entered 836 photos, and 21% of those, 176, were given an acceptance. Obviously, the acceptance score level will therefore differ in each category. For example, a score of 11 or more from the 3 judges, so 2 4s and a 3, or so you can't have a 5 4 and a 3, but a 5 4 and a 2, you know, give you 11, could be accepted. But in the color print level, the acceptance level could be 12 or more. The percentage rate depends on the overall acceptance rate when they're first marked, and if the acceptance level is too high or too low, then the ones on the borderline are remarked. But the best individual entry, which was a David Keep, I don't know how many he actually entered, but he got 19 acceptances in the exhibition. Now, when you consider that costs about £3.50 each entry minimum, can cost you more than that, depending on if you want your prints returned to you, you've got to pay the postage. I think off the top of my head, the Southampton International Exhibition probably got entries from about 50 to 60 different countries around the world. So it is a truly international exhibition, and there is a cost to it. So you're looking at a Fiat, you require 40 acceptances from 8 countries. There's definitely a financial consideration to be made.
One other thing, Pete.
Yeah.
If one of the judges scored a 5,
yeah,
it was automatically set aside if it didn't reach and it was assessed and assessed at a later level.
Yes. Yeah.
They were, if just one judge gave it a maximum of 5.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Now those are obviously the 3 main well, they're the most popular accreditations, and which is Fiat, PAGB, and obviously, as Keith has covered, the RPS. One thing to bear in mind if you do want to start entering some of these competitions, especially if you're looking at exhibitions, competitions abroad, you want to check that they have got the patronage of Fiat or PAGB, because all the other 2 that I mentioned, PSA or GPU, those are the 4 main ones. There have been instances I've been told of where people have just set up a competition in their bedroom, got it up online, and people are entering and spending 40, 50 quid sending off their PDIs or their prints, and it's basically one man and his dog sat at home giving them marks, and of course they're not meeting the expected levels, and they're not associated with Fiat or PAGB, so you could end up with some letters after your name that don't really mean anything and aren't recognised or known in the photographic community.
Nigerian master photographer, you mean?
Yeah, something like that, Dave. The thing is, there is a bit of money to be made if you wanted to set it up, but obviously it's outside of the law. But those are some of the most popular ones. But what we did notice, a couple of the other ones that I mentioned, there's a GPU, which is the Global Photographic Union, and the PSA, which is the Photographic Society of America. They're not quite so popular in this country, but obviously they are acceptable towards the Fiat accreditation. There are links to these on the Southampton International Exhibition website, which is still up live. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at some of the names on, I think it was on the league match, and one of the guys had ASI SEP and ASI SLP after his name. And I looked those up because I hadn't heard of those from before. And they were from the SWPP, which is the Society of Wedding Photographers. So I looked that up, and their website's got some interesting examples of an accreditation acceptance. So that was one of the, who's that? Marilyn Taylor, who was successful with that panel. Obviously, being a wedding photographers association, she's got some interesting weddings she's been looking at.
Is that one what you call a shotgun wedding?
Yeah, it was. 1-0 up, Saints. Saints are 1-0 up, Gary.
Oh, great.
Yeah. My teleprompter's just told me.
All right.
She's good, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's early.
5 minutes.
So that Society of Wedding and Portrait Photographers, they have a various categories of associateship. It's a mouthful, isn't it? So there's wedding, there's sports, nature, and what have you. I haven't covered any more than that, but I just looked at that to see who they were, and obviously the full details are on their website. So that is the end of the presentation. It gives you an idea of what you need to get, if you're looking to do a CPAGB or get one of the FIAPs. There is, like Keith covered in the his presentation, there's obviously a cost to that, and it's personal choice whether you want to get yourself some letters after your name. I don't know if anybody's got any questions on that. Did you want to see a few of the photos from the Southampton International Exhibition?
Yeah, first of all, Peter, the PSA.
No, sorry, Roy.
Yeah, the PSA you spoke about a couple of minutes ago. Is there a German version of that, the PDSA?
I don't know. You've been nasty.
It's all right, Roy. I got it, Roy.
Yeah,
it's beyond me, Roy.
Yeah.
Been a long day. But hopefully that covers a few of the pointers if you're interested in taking on your photography to the next level. And obviously, as Keith has explained when he did his LRPS, you know, it does get you thinking about your photos, what you take, and obviously in the RPS accreditation, you've got to think about how you set your panel up, which is, you know, makes you think a bit more about the photos that you've taken and how you're presenting them.
I would just say that I mean, I don't need any letters after my name. I didn't do it for. I've already got a lot of letters and a lot that I've thrown away when I retired, so I don't need any. And if you're like that, you could take the exam and you could save yourself £120 of continuing membership of RPS if you think it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
As I say, I really did it for the challenge and the learning experience. And
yeah, and I think from that point of view, it was worthwhile, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it helped me. It may not help other people. You know, there are people at different stages, aren't they? And it helped me a lot.
Did you look at the new one, Keith? The 450 quid one?
No, I'm unaware of that till you mentioned it. So that's quite interesting. It sounds a bit costly, but I would think about it. I would.
Yeah.
On a more serious point, I mean, at Bewley, they tried to encourage as many people as they could to, you know, go for one of these. But we also actually had a federation judge as a member of the club, and I thought that was quite useful because, you know, he would tell us more about what judges think than you got from these, you know, sheets that they hand out now and again.
Yeah.
Well, Roy Lambert was quite big in, he was kind of judged for us, hasn't he? He was big in FIAP, isn't it? Is it FIAP or no, PAGB, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but he used to do all sorts for that.
Yeah. Yeah, the PAGB is quite an active association, and they have different national competitions that are sort of run in conjunction with our leagues that we enter. But of course, it's all a bit the last couple of years. 1-1.
Oh, that didn't last long, did it?
No, it didn't, did it?
Okay.
Oh, well, hang on 2 minutes. She'll be back in with another score update. Oh, there was me getting all excited, thinking I'll have a nice evening. Yeah, has anybody else got any other questions on that?
I was going to say, I would have thought that if anybody was interested, we could probably get Roy to come along and do us our own assessment, couldn't we?
Yeah, yeah. Or Maria also offered to do that.
Oh, did she? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think she's got both affiliate accreditations.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, if there's any interest there, it's something we could look at. It's obviously probably be a lot easier and better to do when we're back in the hall.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whenever that might be.
Yeah.
So does anybody fancy joining the LRPS now?
I don't
Sorry,
know.
the RPS and getting.
I don't know. I might look at it.
Yeah, I think I'd have a look at it.
Yeah, it might be something. Got to fill our day. It depends how long we're in lockdown. We need to fill our days up.
I used to go along to Ringwood. There was they have a digital group that meets at Ringwood about every 6 weeks, 2 months, and I'm not a member, but I used to go along. It was about £7, you know, for an all-day session, and they had some really good things on. And the trouble is, the seats were awful. You know, everybody you go along in the morning, and by sort of coffee time, you were shuffling from, you know, one area to another, and come the end of the afternoon, it was a nightmare. But that has nothing to do with the presentation. But they had some good speakers and some good things there.
So you need padded pants, noted.
Oh, I took a cushion and all sorts of things, a blow up thing, and didn't make these seats any better. They were all
Too much detail, Roy.
All right.
On the blow up thing, I'm a bit worried about that.
yeah, you go.
I've heard of people like that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, next week we're gonna have an evening on. What we were going to do was I was going to send out a photo for everybody or all those that were interested in processing, and then they would present it next week and then just give us a little chat on what they did, and then we'd have a look at all the different interpretations that we got back from everybody. But we were discussing it Friday. We did it once before, but that was when we were in the hall, and we could give everybody a copy on their stick of a raw file, because it's not much point as me sending out a JPEG, because there's not really a great deal you can do to it. But so what I think we'll do next week is if anybody's got anything that they've taken a picture of that they'd like to explain how they handled the post processing, can you get in touch with me and let me know, and we'll slot that in. I did ask Roy if he could go through how he did his central station picture. Are you able to do that for us next Tuesday, Roy?
I think that's a bit short notice, actually, because some time ago I did it, and I'd have to learn how to do it again.
And you've forgotten. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you've got 6 whole days.
Yeah, but I've got 6 whole other things to do, and a boss that, you know, that's got me like that.
Okay.
Well, what are you going to do? Are you sending out a raw file then?
Well, no, because I can't. Because it's too big.
Why is it too big? Can't I just download it?
Eh?
Can't we just download it from a link?
Well, I can put one on the where do you want me to put it?
Just stick it on email.
Oh no, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it on Flickr. No, it won't go on email because of the size.
It won't go on Flickr as a raw file.
It won't go on Flickr as a raw file.
Let me just finish.
No, you need to use Dropbox or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest.
Or on your own website if you can find some way.
Go on, Ray.
Choose. Here we go. Right, I'll get in there. Yeah, just stick it on whatever method, OneDrive, Google Drive, or something like that.
Well, the other one is there's loads of them. If you just search large file transfer, there's one I've used before, and I'm looking at it now. Transfernow.net. There's another one, WeTransfer.net. Most of them have a free option, which is sort of 3 files of 2 gigabytes per month or something like that.
Yeah, we've got our Dropbox. I'll put it on there and send everybody the link.
Give it a go.
Yeah,
I'm happy to take it up if you want, Pete. That's fine.
yeah. If you'd like to
Yeah,
have a go, Ray.
I just need a signpost to which the picture is and where you want it.
Okay, and if anybody else would like to, just do what you want with it, and then give a quick presentation next week. I've got a couple.
What is it? A landscape, a portrait, or what? Or haven't you picked one yet?
Say that again, Dave.
What is it? Just give us a clue.
Well, I don't know. I haven't picked anything out yet.
Well, that's what I was just asking.
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of ideas. Probably a castle or something like that we did before, and it was quite interesting. All the different ways that people processed it and how they cropped it and turned it round and did all sorts with it.
If I'm doing Pete, if I'm doing I'm down for some photo pills.
Your photo pills the following week.
Could I have a quick hands up? Who's got photo pills at the moment, and has anyone got it?
No, not yet.
I've got it, Dave.
I've got room on my phone.
No, I haven't. I get links to it, and I've had a look at it, but I haven't done anything about it.
About 3 or 4 of us. All right, cool. Just an idea.
I'm seriously thinking about it, Ray.
All right, cool. Cool. Hopefully you'll be so wowed by it, you'll all be getting out and buying it. Eh?
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
We'll see. Keith, I really enjoyed that. Thank you. That is superb.
Yeah, it's very good.
I mean, I was just going to say that if anyone is interested in joining RPS, and they might not be, it's probably better to do it when COVID has settled down, because you get these regional events, local shoots and things, and they're not functioning well at the moment. So I think I would I give it a bit longer.
That's the one of the powerful parts of it, isn't it, Keith? Really, it's the meeting up with people and sharing comments.
So I think I would give it a bit longer just right now.
I've got a question for you, Keith.
Yeah.
Did it somewhere in the presentation say that it was their head office was it now in Bristol?
Yes, that's right.
Right, because I thought it moved up to the film Bradford. I thought they were going to move it. It used to be in Bath, didn't it?
Yeah, I think
years ago, and I used to go there quite regularly.
Yeah.
And then they were. I thought it was moving up to
Bradford, I think
Bradford for the Royal Film and whatever it was museum. So it's now back in Bristol, is it?
It is, yeah.
Oh, cheers.
Harold used to go up to Bradford, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay then, is that all okay? Everybody okay? Nobody got any more questions?
All good.
Okay. Brilliant. I'll see you next Tuesday, and I'll drop a link tomorrow to a picture, or I'll put a couple of pictures on Dropbox for people to download and process and give us a little demo next week. Yeah.
We having a short chat Friday.
Can do if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll send out a link.
And last week's.
And what? Sorry.
And last week's.
And last week's scores. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice to see David here. Late. Yeah. Hey, Miriam.
You're muted.
You're muted,
Dave.
Oh, am I being spoken to?
No.
Other Dave.
Yeah, she's good. Sorry. Yeah, she's good. Yeah, I'm fine. And yeah, Miriam's working hard. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I seem to recall something like that in the past, working hard.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah. Okay, folks.
Awesome.
Enjoy.
Enjoy the full moon, guys. 28th.
Okay.
Good night all.
See you all next week.
Thanks a lot, Keith. Thanks.
Well done.
Cheers.